My name's William. I turned 77 this morning, but what I'm about to tell you started 4 years ago, when I was 73. I've lived my whole life in Kansas. Used to be Topeka. Now I'm tucked away somewhere quieter. Where exactly doesn't matter, at least not yet. Honestly, I never planned to write any of this down, but it's been sitting heavy in my head for too long. Maybe if I finally get it out, say it, write it, I can stop waking up at 3 in the morning, replaying that phone call in my mind. So, here we go. Back in 2018, I lost my wife, Olivia. Breast cancer, quick and merciless. We'd been married 44 years. She passed away at home, her hand still in mine. After that, the world went quiet. Not peaceful quiet, the kind that fills the room and makes you ache. It was just empty. I managed all right for the first year. I kept the house in order, mowed the lawn, paid the bills, even stopped by the VFW every Friday. I'd chat with the neighbors once in a while, but my right hand started acting up. Arthritis, the doctor said. My eyesight, especially at night, wasn't much better either. One morning, I clipped a mailbox backing out of the driveway. Scared the hell out of me. The next day, I put my car keys in the drawer and decided they'd stay there. That's when things started to get rough. Living out here in the countryside means the nearest grocery store is a 20-minute drive. No buses, no Uber, and if you want a taxi, you better plan 3 hours ahead and have $50 ready. That's when I started thinking maybe it was time to move. Nothing fancy, just something simple. Maybe an apartment closer to my daughter, Aria. She's my only kid. Aria lives in Overland Park, about 3 hours east. She's married to a guy named Mark. They've got 2 kids, a big house, the whole thing. She's a school counselor. He's in finance or insurance. I can never remember exactly which, but he sure talks a lot about deals and weekend getaways. We weren't exactly close, but we kept in touch for birthdays, holidays, and those occasional just-checking-in calls. After Olivia passed, Aria came down a couple weekends to help me sort through things. We packed boxes, cried a bit, then life just moved on. So one afternoon, I figured I'd give her a call. Tell her I was thinking about moving closer, not in with them, just nearby. Maybe she could help me look at a few places. I thought she'd be happy about it. I waited until Sunday, mid-afternoon. I knew she was usually home doing laundry around then. When she answered, she sounded a little out of breath. "Hey, Dad. Everything okay?" Yeah, I'm fine," I said. "Just wanted to run something by you." "Sure. What's up?" I told her I'd stopped driving, that it was getting harder to manage things alone, and I was considering selling the house to move closer to her. There was silence for a few seconds. Then I heard Mark's voice in the background, loud and careless, like he was standing right next to the phone. "We're not running a senior hostel, Aria. He'll figure it out." My heart just froze. I waited for her to tell him off, to say something, anything, to defend me, but she didn't. Instead, she let out a long sigh. "We're really busy right now, Dad," she said quietly. "The kids, Mark's work. I don't think we can deal with this. Like I was some sort of burden or project she didn't have time for. I didn't yell, didn't argue. I just sat there with the phone in my hand, staring around the living room, at the walls Olivia painted, at the couch she picked out. Suddenly, none of it felt like home anymore. "I understand," I said softly. "Thanks anyway." Then I hung up. The next morning, I called a real estate agent. "Hi," I told her. "I'm thinking of selling my house. Could you stop by?" Her name was Tammy. Early 40s, sharp, professional, didn't pry. She came by that Thursday. We walked around the place, and she said it was in great condition, that it would sell fast. She was right. Within a month, I had a buyer, a retired couple from Texas, moving closer to their son. Paid cash. I never told Aria I sold the place. Didn't see the point. I was done trying to stay in a life where I wasn't welcome. I found a cozy little 1-bedroom condo in Lawrence. Nice neighborhood, doctors nearby, grocery store just down the street. Everything I needed, really. Then I called my lawyer. I'd had a will for years. Everything used to go to Aria. The house, the savings, my truck, my insurance. But after that phone call, I started thinking. She'd already made her choice. So, I made mine. I told my lawyer to change it all. Half my estate would go to a local veterans group that builds homes for senior vets. The other half, to a senior support program back in Topeka, for folks like me who don't have anyone left. As for the truck, I hadn't decided yet. About a year went by. Life was quiet, but it wasn't bad. I made some friends at the senior center. There was Carol, a kind widow like me, and her grandson, Tyler. Good kid, helped me fix a leaky sink once. They'd stop by sometimes even when I didn't ask. Then one night, it happened. I had a stroke. Don't remember much, just waking up in a hospital bed with a nurse shining a light in my eyes. They said it was mild, that I was lucky they caught it early. Still scared me half to death. Reminded me how fast everything can change. I spent 2 weeks in a rehab center before they let me go home. When I got back, I did something I hadn't done in over a year. I called Arya. She answered. I told her what happened, that I'd had a stroke, but I was all right now. I just wanted her to know. She didn't say anything for a while. Then, finally, why didn't you call me sooner? I didn't say what I was thinking, because deep down, I already knew she'd told me exactly where I stood. I didn't tell her what I really wanted to say. Instead, I just muttered, "You were busy." Then I added one more thing. "I changed my will, Arya. You're not the beneficiary anymore." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. "What?" she asked softly, like she wasn't sure she'd heard me right. "I've got people here who actually look out for me," I said. "People who don't treat me like I'm just in the way. That's who's getting what I have." Then she started crying. Real tears. But it didn't bring me any satisfaction. I wasn't angry, and I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just felt tired. Bone-deep tired. 2 weeks later she came by, brought flowers, sat beside me and apologized over and over. "Dad, I didn't know how to stand up to Mark," she kept saying. I just nodded. Didn't have much to add. She left after 20 minutes. That was the last time I saw her. She still calls sometimes, leaves voicemails. I listen to them but never call back. And the story doesn't end there, because what I did next, the plan I put in motion, well, let's just say when my lawyer finalized everything, nobody saw it coming. Things quieted down again after Arya's visit. I slipped back into my routine. Doctor's appointments, breakfast at the same little cafe, and Wednesday afternoons at the senior center. Carol still checked in on me now and then. Her grandson Tyler started driving me to appointments. Wouldn't take a dime for gas. "You remind me of my granddad," he said once, smiling. Physically, I was getting better, but mentally, I was still dragging around something heavy. Not hatred exactly, more like unfinished business that never stopped tapping me. 3 months went, then a letter showed. Type, no return address. I opened it and sighed the second I saw the signature. Mark. "William, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We'd like to revisit the will. Arya was very emotional during your last conversation, and I believe she didn't express herself properly. We've always cared about your well-being. Let's have dinner soon, and discuss how to move forward as a family." There wasn't a hint of apology in it, just corporate-sounding nonsense written like a business memo. I tossed it aside and didn't reply. 2 weeks later, Arya called. This time, I picked up. "Dad," she whispered, "please. Mark was out of line before, I know that, but we're trying. The kids miss you." That part hit me right in the chest. I hadn't seen my grandkids in almost 2 years. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. Then she added, "We were thinking maybe you could move into an assisted living place near us. We could visit on weekends." I almost laughed. They wouldn't let me live near them before, but now that they smelled money, suddenly nearby sounded convenient, as long as they didn't have to deal with me directly. "I'll think about it," I said. But the moment we hung up, I called my lawyer again. "Can we make the estate tighter?" I asked him. "Like, bulletproof tight?" He didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. We rebuilt everything. Ironclad this time. So secure that not even a team of sharks with law degrees could chew through it." Then I signed over my truck to Tyler. No will, no paperwork shuffle, just a straight title transfer. He looked at me like I'd handed him a gold brick. "Are you serious?" he asked. "Dead serious," I told. "You've done more for me in 6 months than some people have in a lifetime." When Carol found out, she tried to thank me by baking a casserole. I told her she could repay me by letting me teach her poker next Thursday instead, and for a while life felt good again. Simple, steady. Then another curveball came. I was sitting in my apartment one afternoon when the front desk called, "Mr. Williams, there's a lady downstairs asking to come up." Didn't give her name. I told them no. 2 hours later there was a knock at my door anyway. It was Arya. No makeup, hair tied back. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "I'm sorry," she said the second I opened the door. "I never should have let him talk to you that way." Then, without waiting for an invitation, she stepped inside. "Dad, I'm scared," she said, her voice trembling. "We're in trouble. Mark lost a lot of money. Some bad deals. He won't admit it, but I think we're close to bankruptcy." And just like that, the real reason she was there came tumbling out. She tried to hug me, but I didn't move. "I'm not here for money," she whispered. "I swear. I messed up." I sat down and let her talk. She sobbed as she told me everything. The house underwater, Mark's gambling habits, how he'd been hiding it behind talk of investments. "How much did he lose?" I finally asked. She hesitated, then said, "Over 300,000. I let out a low whistle. She flinched like the sound itself hurt. I didn't say anything for a long while, just stared at the blank TV screen across the room. "Did you come here to ask me for help?" I finally said. She looked away. "No," she said quietly. "Not exactly." I nodded, stood up, and poured myself a glass of water. "Arya?" I said. I spent my whole life protecting you, giving you everything I could. When I finally needed a little help, all I asked for was to be near you, not to move in, not for money, just to not be alone." She cried again. I didn't stop her. "I don't know if I'll ever forgive you," I said softly. "Not yet. Maybe not ever." "I know," she whispered. Then she left. The next morning, Mark called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail, said he wanted to clear the air. 2 days later, I found out something made my stomach turn. Mark had actually shown up at my lawyer's office, unannounced, trying to schedule a meeting to discuss family adjustments. The receptionist shut him down before he could get past the lobby. My lawyer called me right after. "You were absolutely right to lock this down," he said, and that's when it all clicked for me. This wasn't about regret or guilt. It was about greed, pure and simple. But I wasn't done yet. I still had one more move to make, one last idea that would make sure they never saw a single cent. But more importantly, they'd understand exactly what they threw away. 2 weeks after Arya's last visit, I heard a knock on the door. It was Carol. Her face looked tense, worried. "You might want to sit down," she said softly. "I just ran into your daughter at the pharmacy." I raised an eyebrow. What was she doing there? "She was asking the pharmacist about your prescriptions," Carol said. That hit me wrong immediately. I never told Arya where I filled my prescription. I never told her the name of the pharmacy, or even what I was taking. She hadn't bothered to visit once while I was recovering from my stroke. So why was she suddenly interested in medication? Carol said Arya claimed she was checking for dangerous drug interactions, but according to her, it didn't sound like concern. It sounded like snooping. I thanked Carol and spent the rest of the afternoon sitting with its stew. Around 6 o'clock, I called the pharmacy myself and asked full privacy law. Then I gave him a list of names that were not to receive or any circum. Arya and Mark were right at the top. The very next day, the building manager called. He said someone had been in the lobby asking strange questions about my health, whether I had regular visitors, and if I had any emergency contacts listed. "I didn't tell her anything," he assured me, "but I figured you'd want to know." They weren't checking in because they cared. They were circling, waiting, like vultures, hoping I'd die and leave the vault wide open. What they didn't realize was that I wasn't just locking the vault anymore. I was wiring it with explosives. That same week, I met with my lawyer again. I asked if there was any legal way to leave a video message as part of my estate. He smiled and said, "Absolutely." We arranged everything that day. We filmed it right there in his office. One take, no script, just me and the camera. I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I just told the truth, plain and calm. I explained what happened when I asked for help, what I heard Mark say in the background, what Arya didn't say, and the chain of choices that brought us here. Then I ended it with this. If you're watching this, it means I'm gone, and it's too late to pretend. You had every chance to be my daughter when I needed you most, but instead, you let your husband treat me like an unwanted stray and turned your back. That's why you're getting nothing. No money, no assets, no second chances. The people who showed up when it mattered, that's where everything went. You'll get a letter, and that's all. Next time someone asks you for help, I hope this moment flashes through your mind, and I hope it sticks. A month later, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a glossy brochure for some fancy-looking wellness center in Overland Park. Private elder care, the kind that costs 5 figures a month. Nice logo, perfect lighting. Photos of smiling seniors like it was a damn resort ad instead of a care home. Inside the pamphlet was a small, handwritten note. "If you're still looking, this could be a good fit. We'd help with the deposit. Mark and Arya." No love, no apology, just their names. Reply. Instead, I made another move. I reached out to a local journalist, a guy who writes about elder care, family estrangement, and what it means to grow old alone. I told him my story. I didn't use names, but I told him about the town, the timeline, and what I'd done with my estate. He turned it into an article titled, "What My Daughter Taught Me About Dying Alone and Living on My Own Terms." It took off. People shared it on Facebook hundreds of times. The senior center printed it and pinned it on their bulletin board. The veterans group made copies for their waiting room. When Tyler dropped by, he grinned and said, "Sir, you kinda went viral." I just smiled and nodded. A week later, I got a voicemail from Arya. Her voice was shaking. "Dad, I read the article. Someone sent it to me. I didn't know you were going to do something like that." And right there, I knew everything I needed to. She wasn't upset that I went through it. She was upset that people knew. "I just want to talk," she said. "Please call me back." I didn't, because I wasn't done yet. I had one last surprise in the works, something neither of them would see coming. Not just for Arya, but for Mark too. And once it was all in place, they'd finally understand what it feels like to be treated like a burden, like a problem someone wants to manage, not love. About a month after that article spread, letters started arriving. Emails, too, though I don't check them. Messages from strangers, some old, some young. Thank you for saying what so many of us feel. Thank you for speaking up when nobody else would. One mother wrote that her daughter hadn't called since her first heart surgery. A father said his son only reached out to ask about his inheritance, and just like that, I realized I wasn't alone anymore. It finally hit me just how many people had gone through what I did, forgotten, pushed aside, or used until they had nothing left to give. That realization sparked my last move. See, I never told Arya about the foundation. After I updated my will, I started something new with my lawyer and a friend from the senior center. He used to handle accounting for nonprofits. Together, we created the Olivia Home Fund, named after my late wife, a private charitable trust designed to help elderly folks who've been abandoned by their families. We launched it quietly at first, but once it became public, the local paper picked it up. Then came radio interviews, calls from community centers. Everyone wanted to talk about it. I stayed silent until every detail was finalized. And the twist? We included Mark and Arya's names in the founding story, not to humiliate them, but to show people why such a foundation had to exist in the first place. We told the truth. They didn't take it well. About a week later, Arya showed up at my door. I could hear her crying before I even opened it. "Dad, please," she sobbed. "Please, I'm begging you. Mark lost his job. We're about to lose the house. We're drowning. The kids, they don't understand. They think you're angry with them." That part cut deep. I loved those kids with all my heart, but I wasn't about to let guilt drag me back into the same fire I'd barely escaped. "Why are you here now?" I asked quietly. She looked up, her eyes red and swollen. "Because we have nowhere else to go." I nodded slowly and opened the door a little wider, not to invite her in, but to let her see me as I was now, thinner, slower, but still standing. "You had someone once," I said, "but when I asked to be, you turned away. Now you want to be near me because of what I have." She buried her face in her hands. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I believe you," I said softly, "but believing you doesn't erase the damage." Then I told her something that took everything I had in me to say out loud. I just made one final donation. It's already been approved, a $200,000 grant to a local program that helps single mothers take care of their parents. Her head shot up. "Wait, what?" "Not for you," I said gently. "It's for the women who did what you didn't. The ones who made room." Right there on the stairs, she broke down completely. I let her cry, but I didn't comfort her, because that was no longer my role. My duty wasn't to save her anymore. It was to protect the man I'd finally become. The fallout came fast. Mark filed for bankruptcy. I read about it myself in the public court listings. Their house went into foreclosure soon after. Arya ended up moving in with her in-laws, the same people she'd always described as cold and overbearing. I didn't celebrate their pain, but I didn't feel bad either. This was never about revenge. It was about teaching them something I'd spent a lifetime learning, and they learned it. 6 months later, I got a card in the mail from my granddaughter, Isabella. It was just a drawing, with a note scrawled in big, uneven letters. "Mom says you're mad. I miss you." That one cracked me. I keep that card in the top drawer of my nightstand. Maybe one day I'll call her. Maybe, but not yet. Because the truth is, I'm still healing. Tyler stops by once a week. We work on old radios together in the little garage I rent near my condo. Carol brings soup when my knees ache. And a few months back, the Veterans Housing Project dedicated a new wing in our honor, the Olivia and William Hall. My daughter and her husband lost my money, but I found something better. Peace. That was the trade. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd have called that real estate agent a whole lot sooner.